I need you to think of someone right now. Someone you know who's brilliant, creative, full of potential, but somehow never quite makes it. They're always about to start something amazing, always on the verge of a breakthrough, always one step away from finally getting their life together. But that step never comes. If someone just came to mind, keep listening, because what I'm about to reveal might explain everything about why they're stuck. And if you're really honest, it might explain something about you too. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's keeping them trapped in eternal adolescence, and more importantly, how this pattern can finally be broken. You've met this person. Maybe he's your brother, your boyfriend, your husband, or that friend from college who's still talking about the same dreams 20 years later. He's charming, he's fun, he lights up a room with his energy and enthusiasm. He has ideas that could change the world, if only he would actually pursue them. He talks about freedom, about not being tied down by society's expectations, about staying true to himself. And there's something appealing about that, something that makes you want to believe in him. But there's also something deeply frustrating, because while he's busy being free, you're watching him waste his life. While he's avoiding commitment, you're seeing his relationships fall apart. While he's waiting for the perfect moment, you're watching years slip by with nothing to show for them. And the worst part, he always has an excuse. The timing wasn't right. People don't understand his vision. The world isn't ready for what he has to offer. Society is too rigid, too conventional, too limiting for someone like him. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the Puer Aeternus, Latin for eternal boy. It's not just immaturity. It's not just laziness. It's a deep psychological pattern, an archetype that takes hold of a man's psyche and keeps him trapped in perpetual adolescence. And Jung understood something crucial about this pattern. The eternal boy isn't just failing to grow up. He's actively resisting it, fighting it, running from it with every fiber of his being. Think about the men you know who fit this pattern. They're often incredibly talented. They have genuine gifts, real intelligence, authentic creativity. They're not failures in the traditional sense. In fact, they often seem more alive, more passionate, more connected to possibility than the people around them who've settled into conventional lives. But that's exactly the trap. Because they use their gifts as an excuse not to commit to anything real. The Puer Aeternus lives in the realm of potential. He's always becoming, never being, always preparing, never executing, always dreaming, never building. He exists in a state of perpetual promise, where everything is possible because nothing has been attempted. And this feels magical to him. It feels like freedom. It feels like he's preserving something sacred that everyone else has lost. But Jung saw through this illusion. He recognized that this supposed freedom is actually the deepest form of imprisonment, because the eternal boy isn't free at all. He's enslaved by his own fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discovering he's ordinary, fear of the weight and responsibility of real life. So he stays suspended, floating above reality, never touching down, never taking root, never growing into what he could become. The psychology behind this is fascinating and disturbing. The Puer Aeternus is essentially refusing the hero's journey of his own life. In mythology, which Jung studied extensively, the hero must leave the safety of home, face challenges, confront dragons, and return transformed. But the eternal boy never leaves. Or if he does leave, he never truly confronts anything. He avoids the dragon. He runs from challenge. He refuses transformation. Instead, he remains in what Jung called the maternal realm. The psychological space of childhood where everything is provided, where he's special just for existing, where potential is more valuable than achievement. This isn't necessarily about his actual mother, though often there's a connection. It's about remaining in a psychological state where he doesn't have to prove himself, test himself, or risk himself. You see this in how he approaches work. He can't stick with a job because every job eventually requires dealing with mundane reality. He has to show up when he doesn't feel inspired. He has to follow through when enthusiasm fades. He has to deal with difficult people, boring tasks, imperfect conditions. And this feels like death to him. It feels like betraying his special nature, his unique vision, his exceptional destiny. So he quits, or he gets fired, or he never really commits in the first place. He's always looking for the perfect job, the one that will recognize his brilliance without requiring him to prove it, the one that will pay him for his potential rather than his performance, the one that will let him be creative and free without structure or accountability. And when this job doesn't materialize, because it doesn't exist, he blames the system. He says the world doesn't appreciate real talent. He says corporate culture kills creativity. He says he wasn't meant for the 9-to-5 life. And there's some truth in these complaints. Enough truth to keep him convinced that he's the hero and the world is the villain. But the pattern is even more destructive in relationships. The Puer Aeternus falls in love with intensity and passion. He idealizes women, putting them on pedestals, seeing them as muses, as goddesses, as saviors. He pursues with poetry and promise, with grand gestures and beautiful words. And initially, many women find this intoxicating. Here's a man who sees their magic, who speaks to their soul, who offers something different from the ordinary guys who just want to settle down. But then reality creeps in. The relationship requires work. It requires presence. It requires dealing with each other's shadows, supporting each other through difficulty, building something real together. And suddenly, the magic fades for him. She's no longer a goddess. She's a real person with needs and flaws and expectations. She wants commitment. She wants stability. She wants to know where this is going. And these perfectly reasonable desires feel like chains to him. So he starts to pull away. He becomes distant, distracted, absent even when he's present. He might cheat, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need to feel that initial magic again, to return to the realm of potential, where everything is perfect because nothing is real. Or he might just fade away, becoming less and less available until the relationship dies from neglect. And then he tells himself and others that she changed. She became demanding. She wanted to trap him. She didn't understand his need for freedom. He constructs a narrative where he's the victim of her conventional expectations, never recognizing that he's actually the victim of his own refusal to grow up. This pattern repeats endlessly, job after job, relationship after relationship, year after year. And the tragic part is that he often has genuine insight into life's problems. He can see what's wrong with society, with conventional relationships, with the corporate world. His criticisms often have validity. His vision of a better way often has merit. But he uses these insights as weapons against reality rather than tools for transformation. Jung understood that the Puer Aeternus carries something valuable. The eternal boy is connected to creativity, to spontaneity, to the divine spark of inspiration. These are real gifts. The problem isn't that he has these qualities. The problem is that he refuses to ground them in reality. He won't do the work of bringing his visions into form. He won't accept the limitations that come with manifestation. He won't embrace the discipline required to make dreams real. There's a powerful psychological principle at work here. Jung observed that we all have multiple aspects to our psyche. We have the child, the adult, the wise elder. We have masculine and feminine energies. We have the persona we show the world and the shadow we hide. Psychological health comes from integrating these aspects, allowing them all to exist in proper relationship to each other. But the Puer Aeternus is stuck. The boy energy has taken over the entire psyche. It's not integrated with adult masculinity. It's not balanced by mature judgment. It's not grounded in reality. It's like a kingdom where the prince refuses to become king, so the kingdom never develops, never prospers, never fulfills its potential. And here's something crucial that Jung discovered. Behind almost every Puer Aeternus, there's an enabling force. Sometimes it's an actual person, a mother who never let him fail, a partner who takes care of everything, a family that supports him financially. Sometimes it's an internal psychological structure, a fantasy of specialness that protects him from having to prove himself in the real world. This enabling force seems helpful, seems loving, seems supportive. But it's actually destructive. It prevents the necessary confrontation with reality that would force growth. It's like keeping a butterfly in its cocoon, thinking you're protecting it, but actually preventing it from developing the strength it needs to fly. The mother archetype plays a huge role here. Not necessarily the literal mother, but the psychological mother. The part of the psyche that wants to keep everything safe, comfortable, provided for. In healthy development, we gradually separate from this maternal matrix. We individuate, we become our own person. But the Puer Aeternus never completes this separation. He remains psychologically umbilical, still attached to the source of comfort and provision. This is why these men often end up in relationships with women who mother them, who pay their bills, who make excuses for them, who believe in their potential even when there's no evidence it will ever be realized. These women often think they're being supportive partners, but they're actually enabling the very pattern that keeps these men from growing up. And the men unconsciously seek out these relationships. They look for women who will take care of them the way mother did, or the way they wished mother had. Women who will believe in them unconditionally, who will support them without demanding growth, who will love them for their potential rather than their actuality. But here's the tragedy. These relationships always fail because no woman can actually be mother to an adult man. The dynamic becomes exhausting. Resentment builds. Respect erodes. She gets tired of being the only adult. He feels suffocated by her eventual demands for reciprocity. And the cycle continues. So what's the way out? How does the eternal boy finally become a man? Jung was clear about this. It requires a psychological death and rebirth. The boy must die for the man to be born. Not literally, but psychologically. The fantasies must die. The specialness must die. The endless potential must die. And from those ashes, something real can finally emerge. This process is called individuation. It's the journey of becoming who you truly are, not who you fantasize about being. It requires facing the shadow, the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. For the Puer Aeternus, this often means facing his own ordinariness, his own limitations, his own mortality. It means accepting that he's not as special as he thought, but also discovering that he doesn't need to be special to be valuable. It means learning to find meaning in commitment rather than just freedom, purpose in building rather than just dreaming, joy in reality rather than just potential. It means discovering that limitations aren't prisons. They're the boundaries that give life shape and meaning. That commitment isn't death. It's the soil in which real growth happens. That responsibility isn't burden. It's the weight that builds strength. But this transformation doesn't happen automatically. It usually requires a crisis, a moment when the pain of remaining a boy becomes greater than the fear of becoming a man. Maybe it's hitting 40 and realizing he has nothing to show for his life. Maybe it's losing yet another relationship and finally seeing the pattern. Maybe it's watching peers build real lives while he's still talking about someday. And even when the crisis comes, many men don't make the transition. They double down on their eternal boy identity. They become bitter Peter Pans, aging rebels without a cause. Gray-haired adolescents, still raging against a world that has moved on without them. They become cautionary tales, living reminders of what happens when we refuse the call to grow up. But for those who do make the transition, something beautiful happens. The boy doesn't disappear. He becomes integrated. His creativity combines with discipline to produce real art. His vision combines with practicality to build real ventures. His sensitivity combines with strength to create deep relationships. His playfulness combines with purpose to generate joy that's grounded in reality rather than escape from it. This is what Jung called the realized self. Not the ego that thinks it's special, not the persona that performs for others, not the shadow that hides in darkness, but the integrated whole, the person who has faced all aspects of themselves and brought them into harmony, the person who can be both child and adult, both dreamer and builder, both free and committed. The journey from Puer Aeternus to integrated man is one of the most important psychological transformations possible. It's the difference between a life of perpetual promise and a life of actual fulfillment, between endless becoming and authentic being, between the fantasy of potential and the satisfaction of achievement. But it requires courage, the courage to give up the protection of eternal youth, the courage to face judgment and failure, the courage to be ordinary in order to become extraordinary, the courage to commit, to build, to stay when things get difficult, the courage to become who you actually are rather than who you imagine you could be. And here's what's really at stake. It's not just about career success or relationship stability, though those matter. It's about the soul. Jung believed that we each have a unique psychological fingerprint, a particular way we're meant to develop and contribute. When we refuse that development, when we stay stuck in one phase, we betray not just ourselves, but the larger human story we're part of. The eternal boy who never grows up doesn't just waste his own life. He deprives the world of what he could have built, created, contributed. He deprives partners of deep relationship. He deprives children of mature fathering. He deprives community of his grounded gifts. His refusal to grow up is not just personal failure, it's collective loss. But when he does grow up, when he finally integrates, he becomes something powerful. A man who carries the wonder of the boy and the wisdom of the adult. A man who can dream and build, who can play and provide, who can be free within structure, who can maintain mystery while embracing reality. This is the man the Puer Aeternus is meant to become, not by destroying his eternal boy nature, but by grounding it. Not by giving up his gifts, but by manifesting them. Not by surrendering to convention, but by creating his own authentic structure. Not by becoming like everyone else, but by becoming fully himself. The question is, will he? Will you? Will the men trapped in eternal boyhood find the courage to finally grow up? Will they face the dragon of reality and discover it's not as terrifying as they imagined? Will they risk ordinariness to find extraordinary purpose? Will they trade infinite potential for actual achievement? If this message hit home, if you recognized yourself or someone you know in these words, then share this video. Someone needs to hear this. Someone is ready to make the transition but doesn't understand what's happening to them. Someone is tired of the eternal boy act but doesn't know there's another way. And comment below. Tell me, what part of this spoke to you? Are you the eternal boy ready to grow up? Are you with someone stuck in this pattern? Are you watching someone you love waste their potential? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Remember, it's never too late to grow up, but it's also never too early. The moment you recognize the pattern is the moment you can begin to change it. The moment you see the prison is the moment you can start planning your escape. The moment you admit you're lost is the moment you can start finding your way. Jung showed us that psychological development doesn't stop at physical maturity. We can continue growing, integrating, becoming throughout our entire lives. But we have to choose it. We have to want it. We have to do the work. The eternal boy wants to fly forever. But the integrated man knows that you need roots to grow tall. You need ground to push against to rise. You need limitation to create form. You need commitment to build anything lasting. You need to accept mortality to truly live. This is your invitation to grow up, not to become boring, conventional, or dead inside, but to become real, to become grounded, to become whole, to finally, after all these years of potential, become actual. The boy has had his time. Now it's time for the man to emerge. The question is, are you ready?